I see a few of you on there. Don't be shy. Say hi. And don't forget to say where you're from. And those watching on Twitter or on Facebook, you can comment and join the conversation on YouTube. For those watching the replay, go ahead and skip this countdown. Bradley, what's up? Congratulations for being last week's winner. What's up, my man Tim? Happy Friday. Adrian, what's up, my man? glad you like it, Adrian. I love it too. Welcome, Shar. Welcome, Shar. See a bunch of you out there. Don't be shy. Say hi.
Yeah. Hey, time to get it started, no delay, let's work. Wanna see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera, steady dropping knowledge. Over 15 years in the game, so he knows all about it. Master the art of SEO, you will be amazed. Time to get your brand off page to on page. Dropping knowledge, legendary for sure. Whether you're just getting started or self-employed entrepreneur. Yeah, let's go. Subscribe to the SEO video show. Hey.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the SEO Video Show where SEO is alive and fun. My name is Paul Andre de Vera, aka Dre, and I curate SEO videos released within the past week into about 1-minute clips. My favorite part of the show is when I get to introduce my guest, and my guest this week is the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, Jim Yu. Before we get started, I want to say hi to everyone in chat. I see Hobby, Carol, Andrew, Elizabeth, Beverly, Bradley, Tim, Adrian, Shar, Brian. Welcome everyone, and let's get started and pick this week's winner. Winner number 1. Yasmin Haas. Winner number 2, Kobe Holland. With mics. Congratulations, guys. The first one to email me will get a 1-month subscription to IMG. And remember, IMG is a place where you can actually do SEO courses. It's like a Udemy for SEO. And so be sure to email me. The first one to email me will get access to this right away. All right. Now let's see here. I want to make sure we get on with the show. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Now let's get on, and don't forget to put I love SEO if you want to be next week's winner. Now let's get on with the show.
This is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. What kind of fruit do SEOs like best? Low hanging.
First with Google News. On the Google Search Central channel, Aura shows us 4 types of low-quality content. Let's check it out.
I'll talk about 4 types of low-quality content that will impact how your site does, both in organic search as well as in your monetization strategy. First, automatically generated or auto-generated content. This is programmatically generated content. In cases where its intention is to manipulate search rankings and not help users, Google may take algorithmic or even manual actions on it. Second, thin affiliate pages. There are many great sites monetized with affiliate links that add value, for example, by offering original product reviews, ratings, or product comparisons. A third type of low-quality content is replicated content from other sources. Fourth, doorway pages. These are sites or pages created with minimal unique content meant to focus on specific keywords.
So stay away from those 4 types of content. The role of product marketing in B2B SEO is essential. John Sherrick tells us why content teams should probably be taking more cues from our product marketing managers.
I think if product marketing can work with content to distill down, like, what is our USP and why does that matter? Even when people are in the very early stages and looking for like best practices or templates or just like understandings of the function, if you can work in the unique aspects of your product and frame them as table stakes for the category, when people do go to make those purchase decisions and they go to a competitor and like, oh, you don't have function XYZ, isn't that critical for making the type of analysis that we need to do? So I think that by framing your product and like what makes it unique as just core to the category or core to the functions or core to the jobs to be done. If the content team is creating content with that mindset and with that knowledge, I think that the purchase journey can naturally end up in your favor without just like trying to force conversions and trying to force forms, because people will see your product as like essential and other competitors as having gaps.
Totally believe in that. I mean, you should really partner up with your product marketing team. It's a great place to get great content out there, and working with them will help you get your content and product out there. Are you taking advantage of Google Discover? John Shehata tells us how we can optimize for it.
But I think the biggest thing you can optimize for Google Discover is by understanding the entities that work well for you, understanding the audience. Make sure that you include high quality visuals, I have seen that AMP, it's interesting what you mentioned. So I did a quick analysis on like a few thousand URLs on Google Discover, and I found maybe 65% of the URLs are still AMP. So something to consider, it's faster. In June, also, they introduced a new paragraph in the guidelines for Google Discover about EAT. So the EAT is an important factor. It also impacts Google Discover. There is a correlation in US between Twitter engagement and Discover. And I'm not saying it's a causation, but it seems like whatever works well in Twitter, usually up to like, I think the correlation was like 0.92, something like that. So what's the buzz factor, right? There must be something, because I know Google looks into communities online to determine the buzz around the URL, from Reddit, from comments on the site.
Are you guys optimizing for buzz factors? That's an interesting concept over there. Do you know how to protect your website from Google penalties? Nathan Gotch gives us his strategy.
Protect your website from Google penalties, and not only that, to improve your SEO performance, is you need to focus on building your brand. So this chart I'm showing here is from Gotch SEO, and what I did is I just put Gotch in the query so you can see I've had over 15,000 clicks and 62,000 impressions just for queries that are directly related to my brand. So one of the most important reasons for even being on social media or for creating content outside of just content that you're trying to rank on Google is you can actually drive more branded searches, which then makes your website more trustworthy, which as a result makes it easier for you to rank for your keywords that you're actually going after. So if I was competing against someone who was just only doing SEO, they were only targeting keywords, and they weren't trying to build a brand outside of just building SEO content on their website, it'd be very difficult for them to beat me because I have so much trust going to my website, so much branded searches going to my website. And Google does consider that as 100% a fact. So
I'm a huge fan of branding and personal branding, so be sure to step your brand game up and get your SEO on point. Next, Sam O shows us how we can rank higher with internal links.
Let's go through a few ways you can boost your rankings with internal links. The first way is to create a logical hierarchy in your site structure. Think of site structure as a mind map. At the top, you'd have your homepage. Then you'd probably have main topics that branch out from your homepage, like your services page, your blog, and about page. Then from these main topics, you'd probably have even more branches to other pages. Structure helps search engines to understand the relationship between these pages, where branches are created using internal links. Now, this mind map is pretty basic and doesn't really give that much information to search engines. So let's build onto this example using an internal linking strategy called content hubs. Content hubs are interlink collections of content about a similar topic. Basically, you create multiple pages on a topic and its subtopics, then interlink between the pages. So if we zoom into the link building guide, you might add more pages like one about broken link building, resource page link building, guest posting, and blogger outreach. And to create relationships between these posts, you could link to these posts from your link building guide, and also link from your posts to your link building guide. Not only does this help to create relevance between pages, but as each of these pages get backlinks, PageRank will flow to and from each page within the hub, helping all of your pages rank higher in Google.
Content hubs, sometimes referred to as content silos, are a great way to get your pages ranking. Our last clip is a nice nugget from this week, which the guys over at the Income School called Answer Targeting for SEO. Check it out.
Answer targeting. Let me give you an example. I'm moving to St. George, Utah. Moving is really annoying. I might be looking for ideas for moving. Look at this. This is somebody who did it right. We see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items, right? Where did these ideas come from? Well, in their blog post, if we go into the blog post, they're taking it from here. These subheadings are what Google has grabbed to be the answer, the featured snippet, right? How many do you want to have? 9. You want to have 9 items always in any post where you think the subheadings are going to be grabbed as a featured snippet, like a list type post or a how-to with many steps. If you have 8, they can display all the content here without this more items here that's really drawing you in to go to the post. So don't do 8 or fewer, do 9 or more, because then you get this more items and you'll get a much better click-through rate on there. You'll just get a lot more traffic.
That was a nice nugget I found. I didn't know about that. But yeah, if you want to do lists, try to make it at least over 8 items. So you'll get that more button that will go back to your website. This brings me to my favorite part of the show. Please ask questions throughout our conversation, as it's an excellent way to learn socially. Let's see. Let's get set up here.
Jim has built a global business that is trusted for enterprise standard content marketing, performance marketing. He is a well-known digital marketing expert who speaks at conferences such as Share, Dreamforce, Adobe Summit, and SMX. He is an industry expert in regular columns in search engine land, marketing land, ClickZ, and the Huffington Post. He holds an MBA from Stanford University, a Master's of Engineering and University of Virginia, and a Bachelor's of Science and Computer Science from the University of South Dakota. He is a widely recognized and driving force behind the enterprise content performance marketing technology used over 22,000 digital marketing professionals around 8,500 brands around the globe. Please welcome the founder and CEO of BrightEdge, Jim Yu. Jim, what's up, my man? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Great to be here, Dre.
Love it, Jim. I've met you maybe almost, 10 years now? It's been quite some time. It's been 10 years since I first heard about, I heard about BrightEdge a lot longer than that, but 10 years was something when I actually met you in the office.
That's right.
Yeah. And that, I want to take it back further. I want to rewind this back before 10 years ago. I want to know, how did Jim get into SEO?
Yeah, so I got into SEO probably about, almost 20 years ago. And the way I got into it is I was building websites for fun on the side. I just ran websites for fun. And to get traffic to those sites, I started to learn about SEO. I was like, this is incredible. You can actually optimize the site and be able to bring search traffic to it. And at the time, for those of you that did SEO back then, right, Yahoo was still a pretty big search engine. It wasn't just Google. In the US, you had Yahoo as well, and I learned about the Overture tool and getting traffic to the site, and it was Overture keyword tool actually at the time for search volume, and so that's how I got into SEO.
Overture, yeah, I didn't even remember that. So what is that now? Is that?
Oh, it's gone now. It was actually a part of Yahoo, and this is for keyword volume. So at the time, Google did not provide keyword volume at that time, but you could get the keyword volume from this old tool that Yahoo had provided from their Overture acquisition, where you could put in a keyword and get keyword search volume.
Got it. Okay, so from there, how'd you actually learn it then? You're building websites, and did you go to? You saw that SEO was bringing a lot of traffic, but where did you actually learn it? Were you following anyone online, or were you doing testing? How did Jim start doing SEO?
Yeah, I started doing a lot of testing, right? And at that time, if you can believe this, at that time, meta keywords still kind of worked, right? Where you could literally change the meta, especially for long tail queries at that time. You could actually, put in the meta keyword for some long tail query, and then you would actually end up showing up on page 1 in Yahoo for it. And so I was like, wow, you can actually literally tell the search engine what keyword that you're about, and then you could rank on it. I was like, this is amazing.
That's I know. I wish that would still work now, but hey, I think that got overly abused, and there's so many things that went on. With that, so your progression into doing SEO yourself, and what I mean, were you doing, I know you were at IBM and Salesforce. Were you doing SEO there? Was that something you were doing, or totally on the side?
Yeah, totally on the side. So at Salesforce, I was on the platform products team. And so Salesforce at the time was building what became the App Exchange and Force.com. And so I was on the product management team there. We were kind of figuring out what could be kind of a generalized platform for other companies to build applications in the cloud. But one of the things I realized while I was at Salesforce was that there was all this sort of traffic that they were generating from paid search. But at that time, Salesforce wasn't doing anything on the organic search side. And so I was sort of starting to connect the dots between the traffic I was generating for my websites and that companies were spending a lot of money on paid search. And I was like, why doesn't any enterprise do this? Like, why don't they connect the dots between, what you do on your company's website in order to drive sort of value at the enterprise level? And that got me really excited about kind of connecting those two worlds of bringing kind of what at that time was a little bit more affiliate driven. SEO at that time was a lot more affiliate driven and towards kind of this enterprise world where I felt like it was just something that had to be done, that companies had to learn how to do SEO. And I got really passionate about that. And that's the journey that we've been on at BrightEdge, and I've been on for the last 13 years.
Interesting. So that was your aha moment right there when you're sitting down at the Salesforce building, just like, there's like disconnect here, and you saw that. And so did you actually just leave Salesforce at the time and went in hard on it, or were you kind of like doing some side projects? Tell me that story. How it got beginnings.
So it's kind of funny because there's all these sometimes it's these interesting moments in where you in life where all of a sudden you make this decision. And for me, that was basically, we had our first baby, and we had our daughter Amanda. She was our first kid, and so I took a couple of weeks off. I took 4 or 5 weeks off during that time, and it was kind of around the same time I had this realization that there was this huge opportunity, and in the haze of it all, right, of having a new baby and being kind of sleep deprived, and I just woke up in the middle of the night and I was thinking, I got to go do this. I got to just go start this company. So I remember waking up the next morning and turning to my wife and saying, honey, I'm going to quit my job. I know we just had a kid. Quit my job, my steady paycheck, and just put it all on the line because I just felt like I had to do this. And she was incredibly supportive. And so I sort of left the safety of the corporate role and started BrightEdge and bootstrapped the company and then actually found my co-founder who quit and then joined us. Joined me. Go ahead.
Oh no! I was gonna say you found a co-founder, what is this? Are you talking about Lem? Was Lem your co-founder?
Lemuel, yes.
Lemuel. Yes. So I mean, how did you find Lem when all this was going on?
Yeah, so I was I was during the day I was kind of trying to figure out sort of the technology and the product, and we were building this first version of the data cube, and then at night I was trying to call up and try to find different people who could join me on my project. And finding a co-founder is really kind of an interesting process, right? Because you're trying to find somebody who has complementary skill sets and personalities, but you have the same kind of shared, sort of values and the ability to kind of go after something together. And so I started sort of calling up a lot of my friends and asked them who they knew. And one of my good friends from business school introduced me to one of his good friends, Lemuel. And so I started to chat with Lem, and I got to know his background. And Lem is a computer scientist. He's an incredible sort of engineer. And not only that, I mean, what really sort of was amazing about Lemuel is not only had he, built great technologies, he'd also gone through. He volunteered for a year. He moved to the poorest part of Africa in Mauritania, and he volunteered a year there as a part of USAID. And literally, I think he got malaria, and he could plow through that, and he helped, really sort of on this mission. And so I was like, wow, he would be a mission-driven co-founder, right? And if he can survive that, and if he could be mission-driven through the ups and downs of that, startup would be no problem, right? And 13 years later, we're still here building this company together on this amazing journey, and still loving it. So, it's pretty crazy.
Journey. It's pretty crazy too, because he was actually into SEO, right? I mean, he was doing SEO. Yeah. He was doing some hacking here, and I'm curious. Like, you always tell this story every time I go to share and your keynote. I want you to tell this story to the audience about like how the early days of BrightEdge, when you're working out of your apartment, and how you were just getting all this data. Can you go and tell this audience about this story? I love it.
Absolutely. So at the beginning, right? So Lem had moved in with us. So he'd quit his job, moved up from Southern California, and we were in this 1,000 square foot apartment, a condo, and so we had our brand new baby, Lem crashing the couch, and so the first thing that we had is this spark of, we got to build this massive index of the web, where what became the data cube. We had to build the data cube. And to build the data cube, we initially thought, we're going to do what every entrepreneur does in Silicon Valley, which is drive down the Sand Hill Road and pitch investors, right? Because to build this massive index, you needed lots of servers and bandwidth and all this kind of stuff. And so we didn't, and that obviously would cost a lot of money, and it was money we didn't have, right? We had both put in about $5,000 into the company, and in order to build all this infrastructure to build the data cube, you needed a lot of bandwidth and a lot of machines. And so we went down to Sand Hill Road, tried to raise money. We got rejected by everybody at that time. And so we were like, we can't give up. We got to build this thing. And so we're kind of scratching our heads and thinking, how are we going to build this? So we kind of broke the problem down, right? Like, how you got to build an index by crawling a lot. That means you need a lot of machines, a lot of bandwidth, right? And so we're like, first problem, machines. How are we going to get all these machines? And then we realized that we live literally half a mile from a Costco. And, Costco, when you go into Costco, there's basically all these different machines at the front, right? And at the time, you start to figure out, okay, you could kind of put Linux on these machines. You could start building, sort of map reduce jobs and build a lot of crawlers and parsers and compression and all that stuff to build an index. And so we bought all these machines from Costco. And the thing about Costco machines is that at the time, they had this amazing return policy. You could buy the machines.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Leverage them, and then return them, right? And so that was kind of the server strategy.
Okay.
And then we had a lot of and then we had to get a lot of bandwidth, right? And at the time, it just so happened that Comcast was running a pilot where you could literally drive 16 megabits per second. They were running a pilot of high-speed fiber to the home where you could get 16 megabits per second for $99 a month. And so we got these flyers that came to our house, our condo, and then it was like, oh wow, that's pretty amazing. And at the time, that's the equivalent of 15 T1 lines, which, just as context, if you were to buy 15 T1 lines from a data center at that time, it would be $30,000 a month worth of bandwidth.
Wow.
And what we realized was, wow, we now have this opportunity to have this great bandwidth to do the massive index, and we could actually kind of bootstrap it. And so we kind of got the servers running, got it going, and that's how the early data cube was built.
Wow. And then wasn't there a time too where Comcast gave you a call and said, hey guys, there's something going on here, right? What was that about?
Right. Yeah, that's right. So the way that when you're building these indexes, you have to drive all these machines to be maximum utilization, right? Because you basically, to scale these things, you make sure you're utilizing every part of the machine, the I/O from the machine, the bandwidth, the memory, the processing that you need to do the parsing, and then compress it into an index. And so we basically had this running 24/7 in order to build the index. And so in the beginning, we're running it. It's going really well. You track all the jobs. And all of a sudden, I get this call from Comcast. And the guy from Comcast is like, hey, I'm noticing that there's some activity. Can you run like a virus check? So I ran a virus check on my machine. I'm like, there's no virus check. There's no virus on my machine. He's like, are you like doing a lot of file sharing or something? Like, and I'm like, no file sharing. I'm just crawling the web. And then he's like, what? You can't crawl the web on this thing. This is like residential bandwidth. And at the time, it was they gave you this ad and it said unlimited bandwidth. And so I was like, but it said unlimited bandwidth, $99 a month. And so he's like, but I'm calling you because I've got the list of the top 10 people on the entire Comcast network, and you're on this list, and that's why I'm calling you.
Oh, man. That's crazy. That's crazy. Like how just you're able to pull all that bandwidth in just your apartment. And that's the first time hearing about like how you just went to Costco to get all those servers, and that's how you built that whole thing. And like, so I didn't realize BrightEdge was bootstrapped. So you pretty much like put everything out there, put it out there. But you also talked about pitching, and you're getting denied by people. And I want to actually bring something up, something where I remember like you and I were talking one time, and I was pitching my company, and I wanted to play the tips that you actually said here and share it with what you were saying with people here with me. So let's check this out. I'm here with Jim, CEO of BrightEdge. He's going to give us 3 tips for this weekend on our pitch. Number 1.
So there's these 3 things that investors look for. One is addressable market, right? How big is the market? Is this a big enough market for there to be a meaningful outcome? Second thing is team. Right? Are these the right people to go and win this market? The third thing is, even if I've got a big market and a great team, if they win, why is it defensible? Why is it something that it won't just be copied by everybody else and then all the profits get competed away? You got to cover all 3 things in the pitch, and then you got to get something. So that's kind of the things that they logically think through. But then the other thing that you need to do is make it so that they emotionally connect with why there's a deep need here, why there's a large unmet market need.
There is.
So that's number 1.
Huge.
The other thing is when you pitch it, there's always another question of like, why now? Why is now the perfect time for this to occur? Why didn't it happen before? Mm-hmm. And also, why isn't it something that's like 5 years out? Right? Because it needs to be in kind of a 2 to 3 year range. Okay. Because if it's more than 5 years out, companies die before the market gets there.
Got it. No,
if it's already happened, then it's too late. Right?
Yep.
So timing.
Perfect. Thank you. So thank you for those tips, because you know what? I actually won that pitch competition, incorporating all those tips that you mentioned. And I want to know, like, okay, you obviously end up still continue pitching after you had everything going, right? And because you actually ended up raising funding. And I'm so curious, like how did that go? Like I know after a while, because you did bootstrap it, and then what was it like when you're pitching it to like your first round of funding?
Yeah, I think one of the things about pitching the first round of funding is that it's about persistence, right? And you get a lot of no's, and it makes sense because an investor may look at 100 to 200 deals before they do one deal, because in a given venture fund, each partner might do 3 to 5 deals, and so really sort of I think number 1 is kind of persistence, and that was kind of our experience, right? Is we pitched a lot of folks, we got a lot of no's, and at the same time we kept building in parallel, but we also didn't give up on pitching, right? So we continue to show people our progress. We got to know different potential investors. We continued to network, and I think probably one of my favorite stories about that time was it was really around persistence, right? And so we've gotten no's from probably we had gotten like 20, 30 no's in a row. Mm-hmm. And so we were a little bit down. And one of the things that Lem and I did, I think this was after our 30th no. And so we were feeling a little bit down. And so we decided to celebrate the failure, right? Which sometimes feels a little counterintuitive. Like, You know, you just got rejected and rejected and rejected. And so, you know, we had been working 100 hours a week, building the data cube, preparing the demo of the data cube and all these different things. And a lot of the investors were like, well, why would anybody ever do SEO? Why wouldn't they just pay for the click? It's just easier to understand, right? And so most of the folks we pitched were like, this doesn't make any sense as a business, but we believed that was going to be the future. So we continued to kind of build it. And so what we decided to do was celebrate the fact that we had gotten rejected so many times. And so we went, and this was when it was very sort of timely, because it was the time when the first Iron Man movie was coming out, right? And if you remember the first Iron Man movie, it was also kind of Robert Downey Jr.'s kind of rise back, right? And Lem and I both love, like, you know, superhero movies and all that stuff. And we've been pulling all-nighters building. And so we're like, you know what? After getting so many no's, we're just going to take the night off and go watch the new Iron Man movie, right? And so we celebrated with an entrepreneur-friendly Sizzlers dinner, which, you know, was like Sizzlers.
Oh, yeah.
And
the salad bar
so
on the hook.
That's right. All-you-can-eat salad bar. And they had chicken wings in the salad bar, which is fantastic.
That was my favorite.
So we did that. It's the best part. And so we had that, and then we went and caught the new Iron Man movie and celebrated the number of times that we pitched. And then and it was interesting because it was like this weight kind of being lifted off our shoulders, just in terms of, like, even just celebrating that we had been pushing. And then actually the next day, we ended up having another pitch, and that pitch was with Altos Ventures. And in the very first pitch, you know, one of the partners that saw our pitch got really excited. He brought in his other partners that same day, and then it ended up being the venture fund that did our Series A. And so that ended up that kind of cloud and storm before the win, and it just so happened that we closed our financing on August 8th of 2008. And if you remember, in 2008, it was literally 2-3 months before the financial crisis, when the entire market, kind of the bottom fell out and there was no funding, you know, for kind of a year and a half, 2 years after that. So we were really lucky because we closed our funding right before the entire market went kind of astray. And so we got incredibly fortunate. So
how much was your Series A funding? Do you remember?
Our Series A was about I think about 1.3 million. So by today's standards, that's pretty small.
Well, 1.8 million by celebrating your failures and watching Iron Man, guys. Check that out. So be sure to celebrate your failures, watch Iron Man, make 1.8 million. All right, guys. Okay, let's see here. So, Jem, I want to go into a little bit on some of the things you write about. You write on a lot of publications. And there's one where you wrote an article about the business value of SEO in 2021, from revenue generation and reputation and retention. I mean, can you tell me a little more about what you're referring to in that article for everyone here to kind of talk about, listen?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's been really, really interesting over the last, 12 months or so is the massive change that's been happening across all these businesses, obviously with everything happening with COVID, everything moving towards a digital first environment. And what I've seen is really sort of the entire market shift to not only, being able to leverage SEO to optimize, for traffic acquisition, but also for deeper insights into understanding how they should work with their customers in a digital context, right? And it really sort of goes throughout the entire customer journey, from acquiring the customers to drive more revenue, all the way to serving and then retaining those customers over the long term, right? Now, what's really interesting about this is that it's really where SEO isn't just about optimization. It's about optimization and also business insights and intelligence, right? And being able to understand the customer. I mean, I've seen so many businesses in the last 6 to 12 months really start to look at it and say, hey, the things that my customers are starting to look for, where are there areas of surging demand that I can pivot my business towards and meet the needs of that consumer or my end customer? as the market shifts, right? In B2B, for example, there's been so much shift away from obviously in-person field marketing events over to everything digital that there's a lot more pockets of where you can reach that customer and across that entire digital journey, and leveraging SEO and search to understand those pockets, and being able to then create the right kinds of content to reach those customers throughout that entire experience. And I think that's really sort of a lot of where search is headed.
Got it. So, I mean, how would someone like even look for these things? I mean, like, how can you, I mean, are you looking at like search volume trends on certain things for like, how can someone actually find these things that you're talking about to make those decisions?
I think definitely search volume trends is a big one, right? And I think a lot of it is really looking at what are the trends, right? What are the areas where you've got surging demand? What are the areas where there's kind of things that are that had a dip, but it's rebounding, right? What are the things that have dropped and continue to stay down? What are the things that are, kind of surged in the beginning, but now have leveled off, right? And looking at trends is a very powerful way to understand that, but then also step back and aggregate that, right? And group that in a way that helps you understand the customer journey, right? What are these terms that are at the very beginning part as consumers or your end customers starting to think about the problem that you address? And how does that evolve as they get closer and closer to comparing different types of solutions and making a decision on where they're going to engage for demos or what they're going to go and buy? And then even after they become customers, what are the things that they look for as they're looking to, sort of get onboarded and be able to use your solutions, right? And so throughout that entire journey, looking at what are the different types of terms, what are the different types of topics that are resonating, grouping it together so you can really understand that entire journey, understanding also what does the landscape look like, right? What are areas where you see direct competitors really going deep? What are areas where you see, potential communities or potential sort of publications that are also playing in those spaces that are part of your customers' buying journey, right? And a part of that customer journey. And so being able to kind of look at it not just at a detailed keyword level, which is really, really important, but then also abstracting that up and saying, okay, what does that mean as we look at that across the entire customer journey?
Love it. Love that answer. Okay, here. I want to know if anyone has questions, go ahead and ask in the chat now before I ask my last question. But I also want to talk about what is your perspective on Google's focus on the user experience and the importance of preparing for core web vitals? I mean, like as a CEO, like what is your perspective on it?
Yeah, I think by and large, it's a very good thing in terms of really sort of, it's better for the users, and it really sort of in some ways also pushes us as marketers to get better and better at the digital experiences that we deliver. It is a challenge, right? Because if you think about, right now having to deal with getting everything mobile first, mobile ready, and making sure that everything loads quickly, it is a challenge. I mean, we work with thousands of customers that do struggle with that, right? Because it's not, I mean, it's a very good goal to have, in order to deliver better user experience and also better search performance on Google and rank better. But at the same time, how do you align the right kind of technical resources? How do you get it prioritized onto the backlogs? How do you make sure that as the site gets rolled out and updated, things don't break? I mean, all of these things are key components of that. But I think it's nice that it's good that there's more and more data that's available now that helps you understand how does Google see that, right? And I think some of that is very helpful. At the same time, it is also a challenge for marketers, and it is definitely a challenge for us to align the rest of the organization to be able to execute on delivering a better and better digital experience.
Exactly. Okay, so I've been actually working on this myself with the company I'm with right now, and one thing is that, and I'm curious of how you maybe will solve it, or like what your take on this, because I mean, with Core Web Vitals, and one of the things is first content paint, and being able to load. One of the loading issues that we have is our tag manager. Once we remove the tag manager, we pass every single Core Web Vital metric out there. Once we remove that that tag web manager. So coming from you, I'm curious like how maybe you're going to solve this, or are we all stuck with it? If you're a B2B company, are we stuck with this tag manager issue? Or I'm curious like what's your take on it?
That's a great question. I mean, it's definitely one that we struggle with, right? First, contentful paint, and there's all the additional metrics, right? And I think a lot of that is looking at what kinds of things are being loaded up as a part of that tag manager. It is, especially for B2B with ABM and other types of tags that you need in there, it is heavy, right? And it does end up, creating some page load speed issues. But it's interesting to look at sort of, what optimizations can you do with the JavaScript, right? And how do you optimize some of the resources that are being loaded? Like, we see there are a lot of opportunities on image optimization, just as an example, right? Where so many sites where the image is it's not optimized for the device type, right? And as you optimize it, you can make it so that it's still looks really great on the mobile device, but doesn't take as much time to load in Paint, right? And so I think there's a lot of optimizations, but it's definitely a balance. It's definitely a balance because there are other business requirements that require those to be in the text.
Optimize other things if you can't optimize your tag manager. But I actually wanted to email like Adobe and all those guys. It's like, hey, can you optimize a JavaScript? I don't know. There's some way that that thing can be compressed. Okay, I want to go into some questions now. We have a couple in the chat that came in here. We had one from Tim. I am a current BrightEdge user. Are there any plans to help site owners who manage multilingual sites a way to easier track keyword translations that show the English version side by side?
Yeah, so in terms of multiple site or multi-geo capabilities, there's definitely, it's a huge area of focus for us. We continue to add capabilities there. So it's definitely something that we're always actively working on. There's inside BrightEdge, you've got the ability to kind of look at an org-based configuration that can be set up to look at multiple accounts that are targeted towards different languages and different geo-targeted versions of the search engine, and being able to track that and aggregate that across accounts as well as one of the capabilities that BrightEdge has. But it is something that we're continuing to enhance and improve.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear because you know me, I'm actually a global SEO person that handles over 12, 13 international properties. And that'll be a great feature to have, just to have that keywords and being able to know, because sometimes you look at character count, like say in Japanese, like you look at character, you don't know what that keyword is. Maybe if that translation is right next to it within platform, that actually can be something good. Speaking of new things and BrightEdge, is there anything that's coming out like that you can kind of give us like a hint on some new stuff that's coming out in BrightEdge, the platform?
Yeah, so in terms of the platform, we're continuing to add more and more into the BrightEdge platform. A couple areas of focus for us definitely are, number one, more and more real-time capability. So with BrightEdge Instant, we're adding more and more real-time data sets and capabilities so that it can dynamically provide you things in real time. The second thing that we're very focused on is also providing more and more business intelligence. We really see kind of the world of search and BI and business intelligence come together to provide insights. A little bit to the use case that I was talking about around being able to understand your customer better and better, because you can see and group together data that helps you understand what are they looking for, what do they care about throughout that entire customer journey. So those are some of the areas that we're very focused on.
Nice. Okay, we have one more question here before I ask my last question. He goes, any advice on how to rank up job offers? Is better to write a high performance article or use a custom type of document? Any advice on how to rank up a job's offer? Is it better to write high performance article or use a custom type of document? Do you understand that question?
I don't exactly know what the custom type document is. It I think by high performance is it more like in terms of page load speed and that type of
I don't know. Hobby, if you can please explain your question a little more, I'll be happy to re-ask it. But other than that, I want to, let's see if, I want to ask my question. Maybe he'll come back here. But my question, Jim, I ask this question to every guest that comes here on the SEO video show. And I ask them like, hey, if someone wants to become an SEO professional, what is some advice that you can give them?
I think one of the things that I really think about being an SEO professional that's most important is always have a beginner's mindset. One of the things I love about SEO is it's always changing. And there's always something new to learn, right? And so having that beginner's mind where you're open, you're experimenting, you're testing things, you're looking at what new ideas are out there, and you're then taking them and incorporating it into what you're trying to do. I mean, that's one of the things that's so great about SEO is it's always changing and there's always new things to learn. And so I think it's that having that beginner's mindset.
Love it. Love it. Thank you for that. Okay. That takes me to the end of my show. Jim, is there any last things that you want to let the audience know? How can anyone get a hold of you if they want to talk shop on maybe becoming an entrepreneur, learning how to pitch? How can someone get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can always reach me at jim@brightedge.com, or JimU is my handle on Twitter as well.
Got it. Okay. Actually, that was actually a great Twitter. I was looking at your Twitter. I was like, you have it like JimU, just straight up at JimU. Okay. Jim, can you hold on for just one quick second as I sign off on the show real quick? Just hold on real quick.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, guys, that concludes another episode of the SEO video show. I hope you found it insightful. If you want, will be on another show later on today on the Close One show. Just search Close One on YouTube search. It will be talking about pitching, entrepreneurship, and all that good stuff. So for that, I will see you next week. Peace out.
Thank you for watching. Hope you come back next week. Make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss a thing. Hope you learn something new, cause the vibe is incredible. From the special SEO professionals, SEO video show, let's work. Want to see you be an SEO expert. Paul Andre De Vera helping you step it up. No delay right now, time to level up. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe. Woo!